The kingdom of Sulayman Solomon, as the prophet who ruled men, Jinn, and the wind. Islamic history. Part 1. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Some kings ruled great empires. Some conquered distant lands. Some filled history with magnificent palaces, towering fortresses, and endless armies. Yet every one of those kingdoms eventually disappeared. Their walls crumbled. Their thrones were abandoned. Their names faded into the pages of history. But there was one kingdom unlike any other. A kingdom granted not by human ambition, but by the command of Allah. A kingdom where humans, jinn, birds, and even the wind obeyed a single ruler, not because of magic, but because Allah had willed it. A prophet, a king, a servant whose greatest strength was not his power, but his gratitude to Allah. Tonight we begin the extraordinary story of Sulayman, Solomon alayhi salam. But before we begin, imagine this. Imagine standing on a mountain overlooking a vast kingdom. Thousands of soldiers march in perfect order. Horses race across the valleys. Birds fill the sky above. A powerful wind carries an entire royal expedition across great distances. Even the jinn work under the command of one man. It sounds like a legend. Yet for the believer, it is a reality confirmed by the Qur'an. This is not mythology. This is one of the greatest signs of Allah's power. Our story begins after the blessed life of David alayhi salam. For many years, Dawood alayhi salam ruled with justice. Allah had blessed him with prophethood, wisdom, and kingship. His voice filled the mountains with the remembrance of Allah. Iron became soft in his hands. Justice flourished throughout his kingdom. But every soul shall taste death. When Dawood alayhi salam returned to his Lord, the responsibility of leading the children of Israel passed to his son, Sulayman alayhi salam. Yet Sulayman was not merely the son of a great king. He had already shown remarkable wisdom from a young age. The Qur'an tells us that on one occasion, a dispute was brought before Dawood alayhi salam. Allah granted Sulayman a deeper understanding of that particular judgment, while honoring both father and son with knowledge and wisdom. This was an early sign of the extraordinary future Allah had prepared for him. When Sulayman alayhi salam became king, he understood that leadership was not an honor to enjoy. It was a trust, a responsibility, a test. He knew that kingdoms rise only by the permission of Allah, and they disappear by His command. Instead of relying upon worldly power, Sulayman alayhi salam turned first to his Lord. The Qur'an preserves one of his beautiful supplications. He prayed for forgiveness. Then he asked Allah for a kingdom unlike any that would come after him. Not because he desired fame, not because he sought luxury, but because he wished to establish the truth of Allah in a way that would become a lasting sign for humanity. Allah accepted his sincere prayer. What followed became one of the greatest miracles ever granted to any prophet. First came the wind. Allah made the wind obedient to Sulayman alayhi salam. It carried him and his expeditions over enormous distances with ease. Journeys that would normally require weeks could be completed in a fraction of the time by Allah's command. The Quran reminds us that this was not the power of Sulayman himself. It was a blessing from Allah alone. Then came another extraordinary gift. The jinn, these unseen creations of Allah, were placed under Sulayman's authority by Allah's permission. Among them were skilled builders, craftsmen, divers, workers capable of completing enormous projects. The Quran mentions that they built fortresses, palaces, reservoirs, and large cooking vessels. Yet none of this happened independently. Every ability they possessed remained under the complete control of Allah. Sulayman alayhi salam never claimed divine powers. He remained a servant of his Lord. Allah alone was the source of every miracle. Then came another remarkable blessing. The birds. Allah taught Sulayman alayhi salam the language of birds. He understood their calls, their warnings, their communication. The Quran records his gratitude. He openly acknowledged that every gift came from Allah, never from himself. This gratitude became one of the defining qualities of his life. One day, as Sulayman alayhi salam reviewed his great army, an extraordinary sight unfolded. Before him stood ranks unlike anything the world had ever seen. Human soldiers, jinn, birds flying overhead. Every group perfectly organized, every rank disciplined, every creature fulfilling the role Allah had assigned. No chaos, no confusion, only order. As the great army moved across the land, they entered a valley. There, something remarkable happened. A tiny ant noticed the approaching army. She warned the other ants. "O ants, enter your homes lest Sulayman and his soldiers crush you unknowingly." The Qur'an tells us that Sulayman alayhi salam heard her words. He smiled, not with arrogance, but with gratitude. He immediately thanked Allah for allowing him to understand the speech of his creation. Then he made another beautiful supplication. He asked Allah to inspire him to remain grateful for his blessings, to perform righteous deeds, and to admit him among his righteous servants. What humility! Imagine possessing one of the greatest kingdoms in history. Yet your greatest concern remains earning Allah's pleasure. This was the true greatness of Sulayman alayhi salam. Power never corrupted him. Instead, every new blessing increased his gratitude. Every success reminded him of Allah. Every victory brought him closer to worship. His kingdom expanded. Justice spread. Trade flourished. People lived in security. Travelers spoke of a kingdom unlike any other, not because of its wealth alone, but because righteousness remained its foundation. Yet Allah was preparing another event, one that would carry the message of Islam beyond the borders of the children of Israel. One day, Sulayman alayhi salam inspected the birds that formed part of his army. Suddenly, he noticed something unusual. One bird was missing, the hudhud hoopoe. Its absence caught the attention of the Prophet King. He said, "Why do I not see the hoopoe? Or is it among the absent?" He warned that unless it had a valid excuse, it would face punishment. The entire kingdom seemed to pause. Where had the hudhud gone? Why had it disappeared without permission? No one yet knew, but the answer would lead to one of the most extraordinary encounters in Islamic history. A powerful queen, a distant kingdom, and an invitation that would change a nation's destiny forever. To be continued in Part 2. The Kingdom of Sulayman, Solomon as the Prophet who ruled men, Jinn and the Wind. Islamic History. Part 2. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In Part 1, we witnessed the beginning of one of the greatest kingdoms ever granted to a human being. Allah blessed Sulayman, Solomon alayhi salam with prophethood, wisdom, kingship, the obedience of the wind, authority over the jinn by Allah's permission, and the ability to understand the speech of birds. Yet despite these extraordinary blessings, he remained a humble servant who constantly thanked his Lord. Then, during an inspection of his army, Sulayman alayhi salam noticed that one bird was missing, the hudhud, the hoopoe. The Prophet warned that unless it had a valid excuse, it would be held accountable. Moments later, the hudhud returned. It carried news that no one in the kingdom had expected. The bird said that it had come from a distant land called Sheba. There, it had found a prosperous kingdom ruled by a woman. She possessed a magnificent throne and great authority over her people. But there was something deeply troubling. The hudhud said, "I found her and her people prostrating to the sun instead of Allah." Qur'an 27:24. For Sulayman alayhi salam, this was not simply political information. It was a matter of faith. His mission as a prophet was not to seek new lands or worldly glory. His mission was to call people to worship Allah alone. Rather than rushing to judgment, Sulayman alayhi salam acted with wisdom. He first wanted to verify the report. The Qur'an records his words, "We shall see whether you have spoken the truth or are among the liars." Qur'an 27:27. This is an important lesson in leadership. A righteous leader does not make decisions based on rumors alone. He verifies the facts before acting. Sulayman alayhi salam then wrote a letter. It was brief, clear, and filled with dignity. He instructed the hudhud to deliver it to the Queen of Sheba. The letter began, "In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful." Then came its message, "Do not exalt yourselves against me, but come to me in submission to Allah." Qur'an 27:30-31. When the queen received the letter, she did not ignore it. Instead, she gathered her advisors. She consulted them before making a decision. Although they possessed military strength, the queen chose wisdom over haste. She understood that wars often destroy nations, so she decided to send valuable gifts to Sulayman alayhi salam, hoping to learn his true intentions. When the gifts arrived, Sulayman alayhi salam immediately understood their purpose. He replied that the blessings Allah had granted him were far greater than worldly treasures. His mission could never be bought. He returned the gifts and made it clear that his invitation was not about wealth. It was about the worship of Allah. The queen realized that this was no ordinary king. She decided to travel and meet Sulayman alayhi salam herself. Before her arrival, Sulayman asked those around him, "Which of you can bring me her throne before they come to me in submission?" One powerful jinn offered to bring it before the royal assembly ended. But another servant described in the Qur'an as one who possessed knowledge from the book brought the throne by Allah's permission in the blink of an eye. When Sulayman alayhi salam saw it before him, he did not boast. Instead, he immediately said, "This is from the federal favor of my Lord to test me whether I will be grateful or ungrateful." Qur'an 27:40. Even at the height of his power, he remembered that every blessing was a test. The throne was then slightly altered. When the queen arrived, she was asked whether it was her throne. She answered wisely, "It seems to be the same." She recognized something extraordinary was taking place. Sulayman alayhi salam then invited her into a magnificent palace. The floor was made of smooth glass so clear that it appeared to be flowing water. Thinking she was about to step into a pool, the queen lifted the edge of her garment. Sulayman explained that it was only a floor of polished glass. At that moment, she realized that the kingdom before her was unlike any earthly empire. It was built upon wisdom, faith, and the blessings of Allah. The Qur'an records her historic declaration, "My Lord, indeed I have wronged myself, and I submit with Sulayman to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds." Qur'an 27:44. This was the greatest victory of Sulayman alayhi salam. Not the obedience of the wind, not the service of the jinn, not magnificent palaces. His greatest success was guiding another soul to the worship of Allah alone. Years passed, and Sulayman alayhi salam continued ruling with justice. His kingdom remained one of the greatest signs of Allah's power. Yet even such a kingdom would not last forever. Every worldly kingdom has an end. When Allah decreed that Sulayman alayhi salam should return to him, he passed away while leaning upon his staff. By Allah's wisdom, the jinn continued working, believing he was still alive. Only when a small creature ate through his staff did it break, and Sulayman alayhi salam fell. The Qur'an tells us that when this happened, the jinn realized they had no knowledge of the unseen. Had they known the unseen, they would not have remained in exhausting labor. Thus, Allah established another eternal truth. No one knows the unseen except Allah. The story of Sulayman alayhi salam is not merely about miracles. It is about gratitude, justice, humility, and complete dependence upon Allah. He possessed a kingdom unlike any before or after him, yet he always described himself as a servant of his Lord. He never claimed independent power. He never forgot who had blessed him. And that is the greatest lesson of his life. Power without gratitude leads to destruction. But power combined with faith becomes a mercy. The kingdom of Sulayman alayhi salam came to an end, but his example remains alive in the Qur'an until the day of judgment. And after his passing, a new chapter in the history of the children of Israel began. A chapter of decline, division, and the gradual weakening of a once great kingdom. That is the story of our next episode. Next episode. The death of Solomon as how a great kingdom began to fall Islamic history. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.